Wait, there you go. We're live. Hello, everybody. This evening is Tuesday, the 1st of August. And we obviously have Sun and Moon here, which is Chris, Frankie, Ceres, Patricia and me. And tonight we have Darren. Hello, Darren.
Hi, Karen. Hi, everybody.
So how are you then? How's things going with you? How's your music? How's Square Flat Earth? Me, and tonight we have Darren. Oh, bit of echo there.
Yeah, and it was quite a delay as well. Delay on to now or what?
Yeah, carry on. I think it's all right now.
Yeah, I just released my album on the 27th of the 7th, and it's had a great reaction so far. Lots of people ordering the CD from me as well. I mean, it's available online on iTunes, Amazon, etc., etc. When I put out Won't Go Back to the Ball, which I think Series is going to play shortly, it had a phenomenal response from the Flat Earth community, which is great. And I can also pivot to it every time somebody calls me a shill for the ball, because I'm talking about Square Earth and how the circle doesn't work and we need to get off it. And as we were just discussing, I think the smarter people, the true researchers, the people that are interested in truth and not just want to be in a Flat Earth club and say I'm a flat earther and have a nice picture of a circle on the t-shirt and all the rest of it. I think most of those people are really starting to question the circle now and really starting to look at other ideas. And I must say as well that because people think it's I've got a load invested in it, it's my idea and all the rest. It really isn't. I mean, Free Energy was the first guy that I saw come up with it. Yes, I've done a lot to publicise it and take all the flack and all the rest of it because he doesn't go on Facebook. But it's really not my idea. And you know what? If somebody comes up and says, well, it can't be that because of X, Y, Z, and I say we say square, it could be rhomboid, anything but four-cornered, four-sided, four-dimensional with portals. If somebody comes up with a better model, then we'll go with that. We'll go with wherever the truth is. But in terms of the music, I mean, obviously we could talk about the models and everything after, but in terms of the music, really, really pleased. Everybody's really, really pleased with the rest of the tracks because it could obviously be the case that one song's good. I mean, how many times have you bought an album in the past? One song's good or two songs maybe, and the rest of it's just, it's like, I only bought it for the single, and record companies are very, very famous for doing that. Fortunately for me, I don't have a record company. I don't intend to have a record company because the things I sing about are really not going to impress record companies at all, because obviously it's the truth. It's truth about the world, the politics, obviously, the flat earth, also, the truth of God, the creator, and everything else as well. So, if you like truth songs, it's called Last Days in Babylon. It's available everywhere online, or obviously contact me if you want to get hold of a CD hard copy.
Yes, we're going to play it in a moment, but it's also nice, I think, with music, like it's a slight bit lighter, isn't it? Flat Earth's such a heavy subject, but that's a bit sort of, I know it's still got the message in it, but it's just something we can tap our feet to.
Yeah, I mean, most people, if they've ever heard any of my music before, they'll have heard "You Can Stick Your New World Order Up Your Arse," which has been quite an underground hit, I suppose, in the truth community since 2014 to whenever the hell I wrote it. Most people will know that one, even if they don't know it's me. And it seems to be the kind of thing that, the kind of thing I write, I suppose. So, lighter message, bit of humour, and something you can sing along to. Good tune. Noel Gallagher used to say, if the milkman can't whistle it on the way to work, you ain't got a good song. And and it's weird. I find myself singing it, when I'm not playing it and stuff. It comes into my, it is a catchy tune.
It is catchy. It is very catchy, Darren. I wondered on that note then, as we've mentioned this song, just in case nobody in the chat room has heard it, Ceres, would you play Darren's song now? It's the first one on the LP. Well, he's got an LP out, but we're going to play the first one.
The magic of live radio. There you go. Might have to unmute himself. It looks like it's only...
We'll turn it up, Ceres.
But anyone who doesn't look again must love the rulers. I won't go back to the ball. I can't believe that shit. 'Cause when you take a step back and look at it, everything they show you is CGI.
Oh.
This time we open up our eyes.
That's right.
Ceres?
Yeah, he's right. I mean, I don't mind. This is the album sampler, so.
Yeah, Ceres has to mute himself. He's got a problem there. Sorry, why did the song stick?
Okay, this is hard. Cool, no echo. Just so people know, he's actually in full high quality stereo. And if you go to my channel, which is Daz Des on YouTube, and click one of the won't go back to the balls, you'll hear it in full quality. It's probably the best way to hear it. Like I say, is the album sampler, so you're going to get 40-50 seconds of each track. It's a great way to hear obviously what's on it. I
see, that's what you were saying. That's it, that's the bit of the song, right? I see.
Yeah, that's what I say. You're only going to get a minute of it, but you got a quick blast there. So like I say, but if you want to hear more, then go to my channel. It's got all the details on there. Thanks, you.
Yay, thanks, Siri. So Siri's has a little bit of a problem. He's doing so much at the moment that for some reason he's now got an echo, so he can't come on unless he wants to speak, because otherwise he echoes the whole chat.
Right.
So models, Darren.
It seems there's a real resistance. People get very childish about it as well. Like I say, if you don't follow flat Earth orthodoxy, you get labelled as shill. People throw the toys out the pram, and they're just not able to debate like adults, which is a real shame. And it's really letting the truth movement down, or the flat Earth movement down. I think it puts lots of people off.
It seems lately, Darren, everybody's going back to the ball.
Really?
Yeah, they seem to prefer going. They'd rather like, I don't know. Everybody's agreeing with things for the ball. So yeah. I'm
not following what you mean. I haven't heard of anybody that I know who's been a flat earther for a while who said no, I'm going back to the ball. I do know this. I mean, the thing that's going around, and me and Darren do not obviously see eye to eye on the model at all. But I'm going to give him his due. He did a video a couple of days ago, and I completely agree with him. I've been saying it for the last week or so. There's a thing going around about, look, we've got them because of the eclipse and all the rest of it. But what people don't do, and it's a shame, and this is why they stick with the circle model as well, what they don't do is opposition research. And it takes 2 seconds to do opposition research and say, well, hang on a minute, why is this eclipse going to go west to east from America when obviously the Earth spins from west to east, which is why obviously the sun supposedly rises. I'm talking about in their model, obviously. But there, and again, the moon is moving basically twice as fast. The moon is also moving west to east, but it's moving twice as fast as the Earth is rotating. And people don't get it. But again, just talk about their model. Their math has got to be spot on, otherwise, advanced physics, and mathematics and physicists would note it. So their maths has got to be spot on, otherwise it wouldn't be able to deceive them. And obviously it does. I mean, obviously don't forget the moon is supposedly 240,000 miles out, and it takes 29 days to go around the whole Earth. But basically what we're looking at is the shadow, is the speed of the shadow. The sun's the sun is behind it, no matter what. But obviously the sun's behind it. We've got the moon moving and the Earth rotating, but the moon is moving the same direction as the Earth is rotating, but it's moving twice as fast. So that's why the shadow is going to go from west to east, and it really is as straightforward as that. And the problem is people don't want to do opposition research. Now, nobody's called me a shill for saying this so far, but I'm sure they think it, or I'm sure they think, oh, you're shilly for the ball. No, I'm not. I'm telling you what they will say. So it's no proof whatsoever that we're definitely that the lion and we're definitely on a flat plane. I mean, it's obvious we're on a flat plane because the thing isn't moving, and everybody lives on top of it, no matter where you live. They're going on about gravity. Keeps you all well. Gravity doesn't tip the ball up, and I've said this before. The proofs for us, living on a fixed plane are so obvious. But when we go off tangent like that, and people don't do their own research, just follow, and share, and oh yeah, it's not, yeah. I mean, we know it's flat, and we know the globe is a lie, but you've got to be accurate with the information. I mean, I really want, a conversation whenever it was last conversation, and it was great because it was like, yeah, we'll get really scientific with things. We'll really do proper research, and you know what I mean, and be accurate about it. I mean, when I do my presentations, I throw out so much stuff. I look at everything that's, I only do one a year anyway, but I look at all of the things, and if it can be debunked, if it can be, explained away quite easily by the globe model, then I won't use it. I won't include it. And if it's obviously false, then I won't include it either. If it can't be proved, I won't include it. And if it's not a thing, I won't include it. So I'm rigorous with my research, and I'm rigorous with my opposition research as well. So the last presentation that I did at the UFO conference, you know, the only thing people can say is they can just throw the toys out the pram and say you're just looking at rockets. You know, you just you know, mocking the rockets. Yeah, I'm mocking the rockets because none of them go anywhere into what, you know what I mean. They don't go very high. You can still see them and they're turning over. You know what I'm saying. So yeah, I mean, I think I've made my point quite clearly now. And the thing is with the eclipse, that's just one example. There are quite a few more. And the problem is most people in the flat Earth community seem to be followers and don't seem to be able to just simply go to Google and type in why does the solar eclipse shadow or the moon shadow, whatever you want to call it, why does it move west to east? And you know, you can go to dozens of sites, not even NASA, whatever, but you can go and they'll have an explanation for it. And if they've got an explanation for it, you can't say, well, we can, you know what I mean? It's a proof that we're definitely not spinning. The proof that we're not spinning is you can look outside. Yeah, when there's an earthquake, that's when the Earth's moving. If there's no earthquake, the Earth doesn't move, and birds and butterflies. So,
Darren, just asking you then. So what do you see then with the? Because I posted a video onto your group, and we have one ready to go because Chris and Z Proxy have done their own simulations, and they can't get it. They can't get the eclipse to do what they say it's supposed to do. Right.
Well, I mean, like I say, it's you know what? I hope I'm wrong. I hope that their thing doesn't work, and I'm wrong, and I've just made a fool of myself.
We'll talk for a little bit more.
Just to clear,
we'll talk for a little bit more, but I've actually got the video. Well, one of them, either Chris or Series can play it. I mean, Series is a little bit laggy there, or with an echo. Maybe it has to be Chris that plays it. I resent it to you, Chris.
Well, Chris, what were you going to say?
Still echoing?
No.
No.
Oh, the echo is still there.
Just mute. Then I'll talk there. Yeah, no.
So you talk, Chris.
Yeah, what I was going to say is I've been doing the model as well, and you know what Darren is saying is true. Like according to the ball mass, if you set it to the scales that they're talking and the distances that you're talking, and the speeds where the moon makes a 27-day orbit and it moves west to east relative to the Earth, but moves twice as fast. If you use the ball math, technically it will work, right? So he's right. There's nothing wrong with their mathematics. The issues I have with it, which maybe I didn't explain overly clearly when we had a discussion, because we were kind of short there at the end because I just stuck it in at the end of our video. But the issues I have with it is more of the shadows that go across the North Poles and the South Poles on the ball model are, if you constrain within the XY axis on the equator, those shadows are near impossible to cast. And it is true, if you set the sun way, way back and the moon at 285,000 kilometers away, it will scatter a shadow to a smaller point on a ball. But then the shadow, because I guess it would be the penumbra, the larger shadow on the outside, that's where it starts to fail, in my opinion. And so I think Mike Helmut's also doing a model of it, so I'm waiting to see what he comes up with as well. And so it's a bit of both, right? It's
yeah. I mean, I think in terms of the shadow, and I've said this to sorry, might say it to you, Chris. I don't know. In terms of the actual shadow the moon casts, there might be something there just in terms of the way light and shadow works and all the rest of it. I mean, we're getting, you know, you can see where the path of the total eclipse is going to be, and that's going to actually happen. You know what I mean? That's the point. It's going to happen. It's going to move west to east. And so in terms of the actual type of shadow it casts and the penumbra and all the rest of it, absolutely, we might have something there, but it's not as direct as, you know.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Everybody going around saying it's moving the wrong way. It's moving the wrong way. I mean, that it pains me, as you can tell by my rant. It pains me to see that kind of stuff. And in terms of, I think in terms of when they have when the eclipses go really crazy and they hit 90 degrees north and south and they're all over the place. If you look at a map of eclipses over 20 years and what have you, again, it's something, because the Earth is tilted and because the moon is on a 5-degree ecliptic, so it doesn't, obviously it doesn't orbit the Earth at exactly its plane, even though the Earth orbits the sun allegedly on the exact plane. It doesn't tilt up and down. The moon has a 5. I mean, again, they would have had to include this in their original math to make it obviously a good deception. And again, I would imagine, and I haven't modelled it, but I would imagine with the sun so far away, put the moon at its highest part and put the tilt of the Earth so that the pole is, is tilted towards it in such a way. I would imagine it's supposed to do it, because, like I say, the maths must work. Yeah. Otherwise, astrophysicists and all the rest of it would be like, hang on a minute, there's something very wrong here.
Yeah. Like if you do it, like you said, according to their mathematics, I agree, it must work. But it's where I have a problem with it is the higher end of the physics of it, right? Like shadows actually traveling through space where there's no medium for shadows to cast. And since the sun is essentially would be a point light, and they conform it to say that the sun's radiation comes in straight lines, right? And so they are conforming it to a degree, but that's where the physics of it just doesn't work out for me, right? Yeah. But I'm sure if you did the position of the moon on 5 degrees and the tilt of the Earth at 23 degrees, and then you put it on the ecliptic of the entire solar system, right on it, ecliptic relative to the sun, you could probably make a shadow appear at the pole.
Yeah.
But it's the light traveling through vacuum without a medium and stuff is where it really starts to fail. And the spread of the light, right, when it hits a cylinder or a round ball.
And it doesn't. I'm trying to think. Isn't a shadow bigger than the original object, or does it depend on the sort? It depends on the sort. I mean,
it depends on the distances, right? If you have an object near a surface, the shadow will be bigger than the object, but as you move away, it'll start to expand. But once you get to a certain point way out, it'll start to kind of come back as it diffuses. The darker spot comes in. So it's a trick of lighting and shadow to make that work. And
do we have an explanation? I mean, because everybody says, what's the explanation of the flat Earth? And I simply say, well, the moon's passing in front of the sun, and we know they're about the same size. You know what I mean? And that's from Enoch and obviously from just observable evidence. But do we have a? I mean, I know David Weiss had a good thing because he was looking at obviously the sun and the moon being projections and reflections and what have you. Because here again, and you'll be able to see it this time, I presume, over in the States if you are in the path. But the moon, I don't know if you remember the eclipse in 2015, guys in the UK. But I've got a video of it as well, and you don't see the moon. You don't see the moon.
That's the thing too, right?
And it's, you know what I mean? It's incredible because obviously it's completely transparent, and then as soon as it starts crossing the path, and it was a 90%, 95% where we were up north, and obviously as soon as it starts crossing the path of the sun, it blocks it out, and it's it's fascinating stuff. It should give us more clues, obviously, with the perspective of everything they say is not true. We're not in a heliocentric solar system. I think we've all satisfied ourselves, completely of that. So what is going on? You know what I mean? Exactly how do they work? And like I say, David had a really good idea about basically the obviously with it being projections and what have you as well. And a lot of people are starting to look into the sun appears local to everybody. It also appears round to everybody, but we all see the same face of it, same as the moon. It appears as a flat disc, but to everybody wherever you are on Earth. So, and we know it's inside the firmament. Obviously, the firmament's going to be refracting in some way, but it's a conundrum.
And I've had the same issues. What I've done, I've looked at hundreds of videos of and photographs, maybe thousands of photographs, and hundreds of videos of eclipses. When I'm trying to work on the model as reference, right, to make sure it's scientifically accurate. And I've never seen any pictures that really clearly show a moon before, during, or after an eclipse coming into the path of the sun. Right? It's always the same phenomenon where you just see the sun, then it goes dark, and then it goes light. Then you get the ring and whatever the diamond ring effect and so forth. So. Yeah. I still haven't found any evidence that it's actually the moon causing the eclipse, right? It's that I can find.
Sorry, say that again.
Solid evidence. Well, I haven't seen any. Maybe you have. I haven't seen any solid evidence of the moon actually being the object that's causing the eclipse, because there's no pictures or video that I can find that show the moon coming towards an actual crescent of the moon or any part of the moon that's in focus, whether it's blue, white, black, don't matter. But I can't see it actually coming into the shadow and then disappearing and then coming out the other side. It's always the same effect. You're looking at the sun goes black, you can see something passing in front of it, and then the ring phase, the diamond ring, and then it just reverses.
So you don't think it's the moon? You don't think it's actually the moon at all?
I'm not sure. I haven't found any evidence.
Well, don't forget, it's supposed to be a new moon, isn't it? Which means, at the end of the day, when the moon is new, wherever it is in the sky, eclipse or no eclipse, we can't see it.
Yeah, this particular one's supposed to be a new moon. But even the partials, like I was looking at partial eclipses and stuff, and maybe if anyone sees, I'm actually looking for a video or a picture that shows, or a series of pictures, time lapse or otherwise, that shows even a partial crescent moon or a blue moon moon, or any kind of a 99% moon or greater coming into the sun, and then causing the eclipse, and then coming out the other side. Right?
Well, like I say,
Ranty Rant in the chat room said that he could do something about that. He was talking just a minute ago, didn't he, Frankie? Sorry, Frankie. Sorry, Darren.
That's okay.
Hello.
Frankie?
Yeah.
Didn't Ranty Rant say something?
Oh no, he was asking for a wrench, and we were talking about a game.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about eclipses. It just came up really quick. So sorry, my misunderstanding. Carry on, please. Sorry, Darren.
Yeah, on the flat map, on the flat map, it works really. It's easy to do, right? You put the moon, at an angle over the ocean, and bring the sun over the top, and the shadow goes the other way, right? It just crosses. That's easy to do on the flat map, right? And you can just angle. You put the moon traveling back and forth from the Capricorn to Cancer, and the sun just kind of rolls back and forth the same way. And you can cast a shadow north, south, east, west, any direction you want, depending on how they cross during the time. Yeah,
because they're going to get different, slightly different altitude, certainly different latitudes. And,
just angle altitude.
It's easy. So it is. I mean, you're right. But again, if it's if it's the moon, it's the moon. I know there's a lot of talk of third and fourth bodies, Rahu and Keter, or what it's called. But again, there's no evidence for them. You know what I mean? Okay, they could be there, but I mean, there's no evidence for an ice wall either. You know what I mean? But lots of flat earthers believe it is, because they've seen pictures of well-known big, tall ice shelves in the Antarctic. You know what I mean? So and the dome. I mean, nobody. I mean, I believe there's a firmament for sure. But the idea of a dome that meets the edge of the Earth. There's been hundreds and hundreds of expeditions to Antarctica, and yes, they could all be lying and all the rest of it. And this thing, you're not allowed to go. Yes, you are. You can go, but obviously you have to obviously inform that you're not going to start killing penguins and drilling oil and all the rest of it. So people can go, but a lot of people all talk anyway. But anyway, just in terms of evidence, just in terms of conjecture as well. I mean, people I heard today, there's more land. They're hiding more land beyond Antarctica, and it's like, again, just pure conjecture. And if I can say anything, if I can get one point across tonight, it's we really need to stay realistic. What we can prove, or what we can at least say, well, that happened. So we're going to see an eclipse. Well, you in America are going to see an eclipse. And like you said, Chris, we have a very simple explanation for it. No problem at all. You know what I mean? The moon passes in front of the sun. Over a thick plane Earth. It's It's exactly what's happening. It's far easier to explain than it is on the heliocentric Bohr model.
By far, yeah, absolutely.
Can I just say, in the chat room, Ranty Rant did say that he was saying if you need an observation from the UK, he'll do it.
An observation?
Yeah.
I think with the eclipse, it'll slightly touch us, I think.
I don't think it goes anywhere near us. I think it goes from the west coast of the United States down to, I think, Carolina, Georgia away, and it disappears.
Yeah, the only thing you'll see in the UK is going to be just slight dimming, and because I think you're in the 80% zone or whatever, right? Which is the greater shadow. You won't see any of the actual dark eclipse part. You'll just see a slight dimming of the sky.
Like I say, in the 2015 one, which was, I think it was March. It was around the equinox. It was a 90-degree one, and it went like a really, really dull day, and it was 90 degree. Like I say, I have got video of it. I should dig it out and have a look at it really again. So I was in the UK for this time when it's nowhere near. You're not hardly even going to notice it. I mean, there might be a tiny little bite out the sun or something. But as I said somewhere else, it'd be great if I know at least one group of guys who were sending up a balloon during the eclipse. It would be great to obviously have a few vantage points. I'm really hoping a few people do it. And again, we might get more confirmation of just there being local, just there being hundreds, or if not hundreds, then thousands of miles away, and certainly not hundreds of thousands of miles away. And obviously, in terms of the sun, nearly 100 million miles away. I mean, I really don't get how anybody can watch those high altitude balloons, and they're panning around, and you can see the sun, you can see a hot spot on the clouds or whatever's underneath it, and it's just so obvious that the sun is pretty local.
Well, yeah, it's the thing too. Like
indoctrination, brainwashing, doesn't it?
Yeah, like when the high altitude balloons go up and they actually catch the moon, and you see the moon is just a little tiny object Like once the atmosphere disappears and you lose the magnification effect and the focusing effect of the atmospherics, which is kind of dome-like curve. I mean, it does have that behavior. It does kind of seem to magnify everything in a curved lens effect. But once you lose that, you get up high enough and you're looking across a straight plane with no air, then the moon just becomes a small little object, right?
Yeah. And well, here's the thing: the sun looks far bigger. The sun looks massive, though.
Yeah,
it's weird. But I'm saying, that on the high altitude, you're right. The moon looks tiny compared to obviously, when we see it from the ground. But the sun looks a lot bigger than it normally does on the. I think anyway.
Yeah, it depends on. Yeah, there's some of them I've seen that too, and then you'll see other ones where the sun, it loses its crepuscular rays, like the diffraction type of thing, and it just becomes like a star with pinpoints coming off it, and almost like it's shining through ice or something, like an ice field with particles. It's a very different thing.
Yeah. And
then you get the splitting. You can see the splitting sometimes too.
Well, yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, well, yeah, the actual. Yeah. I mean, that video with that Dan Dimension did on Let There Be Light, and he's talking about basically how the sun actually, it's charging up the noble gases in the atmosphere.
Yeah, and that's kind of where all my research is leading to. Like where the sun appears to us is where it's charging the noble gases, and it's actually, could be burning them because of like a magnifying lens effect. You burn an object just because its focal point is there, and right. that's where we see it from on the ground, looking up at that focal point. But where the sun actually is, it's so off. It could be somewhere else, right?
And then obviously the on the other side of the magnifying glass, the light is diffused.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Light is diffused, spread over a large area. Right. I mean, it's the early days. This is the thing, and I have no problem now with saying whether it's flat Earth, globe Earth, whether it's square Earth, circle Earth. We don't know. We don't know yet. We don't have all the answers. I'm supposed to be able to answer every single scientific. I'm supposed to be able to answer every phenomenon. And the thing that seems to keep a lot of people on the circle is the northern Arctic circling sun. But as we've just said about the sun, it refracts and diffuses and does all kinds of crazy things all over the place. And when you've got just basic things like the speed of the sun, which doesn't change, and it would need to speed up by 70% when it's over Tropic of Capricorn, on the circle model, and the moon, obviously Dave Marsh has proved it a couple of times, and the moon, which makes the trip between the tropics, in 2 weeks, again, only changes speed by 6%, and it's faster on the equator than it is on both the tropics. I mean, just simple observational stuff like that just completely disprove the circle, as well as daylight hours and the equinoxes, both the straight path, and it's impossible for the circle model to give 12 hours of daylight everywhere on or around the equinoxes. Obviously something, the day slightly changed where the location has 12 hours, but around both equinoxes you have 12, and it's just impossible for a sun to basically light up half of the Earth at the same time on the circle model. I mean, I could go on and on, and I'm not going to spend I'm not going to spend this time debunking the circle model. But again, it's this thing about opposition research, and if you don't do it, then you're just going to believe whatever you're going to believe, and it's not okay. Fine, you're a circle flat earther, and everything anybody else says is wrong and they're false and they're all wrong, and if you want to believe that, then that's fine. But at the same time, there are people out there that want the truth, that have realised that we're definitely not on a rotating ball in outer space. But the circle model that's given to everybody, at the start, it's in virtually every flat Earth video, every NASA debunking video, see the circle model and all the rest of the sun going round and round. And if you debunk that for yourself because you have done the opposition research, and it gets torn apart, it really does. It gets torn apart all over the place, and it puts a lot of people off. I mean, that's it now. I think I don't even know whether we've even got a chance anymore of taking flat Earth anywhere, because millions and millions of people have already looked at it. They've gone, yeah, well, NASA might be lying, they might have gone to the moon and everything else, but what's this model? It can explain hardly anything at all. It falls down here, it falls down there. So flat Earth's just crazy. It's a psyop, and that's it. And they'll spend the rest of their lives just laughing at flat Earthers. And it's a shame. Yep. It's a real shame. This is the problem. It's a real shame. That's that's why I go on about it. But I might be coming to the end of it. I might be coming to the end of it. With just that realization that it's just not going to go anywhere. The main leaders who everybody follows are never going to change. They're never going to realize the error. The people that are or have been trying to work on different models and look at it are just labelled as shills, and even within the flat Earth community, we're the crazy ones, and nothing's ever going to change. So it's just like banging your head against a brick wall. I mean, there's many other things for me to do, including obviously the music, including obviously promoting the gospel, which is far more important, and I suppose more the false alien saviors that are coming. Because I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the flat Earth realization is by itself, it's not that worthwhile. while. I mean, it's fascinating to know of another massive deception that they played on everybody. But again, like with vaccines or 9/11 false flags or all of it, the occult brotherhood that runs the world with Jesuits and all the rest of it. If most people aren't going to wake up to it, and you're just crazy, you're just the crazy nutter in the corner going on and on with yourself, and they're watching the nightly news and going to work in the morning because they've got bills to pay. So at the end of the day, what is going to happen is there's going to be a massive war in the Middle East, and it's going to cause worldwide economic collapse. And people should definitely be ready for that. In terms of stocking up and growing their own food. But after that, that's when their order comes. That's when the real new world order starts, because they're going to bring supposedly alien spaceships, over every city, and they're going to solve all of humanity's problems all in one go. They're going to bring peace and security. They're going to provide free energy. They're going to provide cures for cancer and all these degenerative diseases that they've already laid all over mankind. They're probably even going to expose some of the bad guys that have been running the place, or at least the guys out front. You might see Tony Blair go to jail, and all the rest of it. And David Icke and Alex Jones kind of lauded as truth tellers. They're going to unite all the world's religions, including most of the church, including mainstream Christianity. Most people who are Christians are going to fall for it because they're pastors and preachers, because they don't read the Bible. They're not independent truth seekers again. They'll just follow their churches and their leaders. They're going to be told, this alien here was Jesus, and this one was Muhammad, and this one was Buddha, and over time we you know what I mean. We created mankind, and here's how he came about. You're right, evolution wasn't it. We manipulated DNA and all the rest. So there's a lot more. What I'm saying is there's a lot more to the kind of the flat earth realization. There's a lot more going on, and there's a lot more to warn people about than just hey, the earth's flat. It's what that leads on to, really. And I think a lot of people are kind of they kind of stop because it is. I mean, let's admit it is a huge mind blower. You know what I mean? When the penny does drop, it is jaw dropping. But don't stop there. We need to go on from there. We need to realize what's really going on, who's running the deception, and what the end game is, what the real new world order is.
Well, I know what you were saying about what you thought about the eclipse, but I was hoping to play a little video, because we've been sitting here and two people kind of have worked out that it can't be right, and you've just said, well, we can't rely on that. But Chris has spent a lot of time looking, haven't you, Chris?
Yeah, I'd like to do.
Do you want to just play?
Yeah, before we publish that one though,
Should we play?
Hang on, you're echoing again. I was going to say before we publish that one though, I wanted to do another model at the other scale and show that the globe one, it will work if you do it the other way and focus, because it will create a tiny shadow. But I have issues with that too that I wanted to explain. So I don't want to put, like I said, I don't want to put what you would call double speak out there, because it's right. I want to be very clear, if you're going to debunk it based on eclipses, that what we're saying is it doesn't work and why it doesn't work. Because the way we were describing it in our hangout there, because we were describing that if you rotate the earth backwards, it'll cast the shadow go in this direction. But I didn't have time to get into because in that model, I had to bring the moon in close to get the shadow the right size and scale the moon down, right? So the other aspect is to bring the moon back up to where it's supposed to be and way out, right? So you can see that the scale is off in this, right? So I'd like to elaborate on that so that we're very clear, right? Because like Darren says too, and I agree, you don't want to be going out there thinking, oh, well, this guy just doesn't understand, scales and angles and refraction, blah, 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 blah. Right? So I'd like to add to it before we publish it. But during this hangout, you can play a little bit, and if you like to show some of it. But.
Yeah, this is the purple one you've got coming from wherever it is, north of California, or wherever, and it goes down to Mexico and across south. That's the one that's coming, isn't it, in August?
No, it's the blue one where the shadow is kind of it's the blue, the sharp. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. But to be clear, this isn't to scale according to the current globe model. Right? Yeah. Right, so
we're going to play it.
Yeah. Is that my go on then, series? But then basically maybe I have to go back and put part 1 on it then, because obviously it's going to be added to. Everyone can do it. I wondered if anybody can come back to us and tell us what they think, if they can make it go the other way. But anyway, this will explain why it's wrong. So Stan, you've joined us. So what have you been doing, Stan?
It's not so much me. It's the prof. He's been doing quite a bit. He's finished the model now of the second fitness. viewable now from 360 of the eclipse on the 21st, and there's a lot of problems. If I post a link in the Hangout.
Yeah, series will show it, or it's probably better if it's series. Series is on mute, but he's usually the quickest one to doing it.
I saw that when he posted, because I subbed to the channel the other day and then got the notification, and I looked at it this morning. So I posted a couple of inquiries on his posts just to confirm. But
yeah,
it was awesome that he independently came up with exactly the same results that I did, although mine's not 4D animation, it's a 3-dimensional model where you get to physically move the stuff around and cast shadows. But I thought it was awesome he came up with the same results. I mean, I can't reproduce it either, and to see him animate it, it's just like, yeah, right on it.
He's proper gone to town on that. It's taken a long time to get that up.
Let me present it to you.
Way to go. Yeah, this is great.
Right, I'm just presenting it. There you go.
But yeah,
can you pause it there, Series?
From a working model.
Yeah, because what we were discussing here was Z-Proxy's he's using a 4D virtual reality software. So as far as I know, because I asked him on his video, that the scales and distances he was using is the actual globe distances of 1 million miles and 285,000 miles away. So I'm not sure. Like I said, I want to take the time to scale mine out into 3D and confirm. But I think Z-Proxies are to scale. So it's interesting there's got to be a way to make it to force it. But obviously the flat Earth is a whole lot easier to do. I'm trying to work with all this stuff.
Yeah.
In the end, all I want to have in the model I'm developing is what's 100% provable and what's there. And I'm not planning on putting any boundaries in because there's no proof of it, right? Like I said, wherever the limits are, that's where it stops. So
yeah. I mean, when it comes to like I said, the circle model has so many problems with it. If anybody does opposition research, actually, said, okay, well, let's have a look at these debunking videos, just the general debunking videos. I mean, there is obviously there is error in them as well, saying that the moon, the moon reflects the sun's light and what have you. But there's so many problems with it. Anyway, the idea of or how why I believe the square, the four-sided model, basically with portals and doors, is because it's a logical deduction. Now I know we're not on the rotating ball, but the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, and then next day it rises in the east again, and everything goes east to west, apart from obviously the retrograde motion of the planets, which are still going around the sun. To fool us, but they're still going around the sun. And there is only one other explanation for that. It's a logical conclusion that whatever, wherever the western end of this realm is, and it is doing weird things. People are like, oh well, portals are supernatural. Well, and I've said it before, the sun and the moon aren't hanging in the sky by wires. They're not being projected like Batman symbols from the ground. And they're also the sun is impossible to triangulate. If you try and triangulate it from your location between the June solstice and the December solstice, it doesn't add up. So you can't, you know what I mean? It's refracting it's refracting because it can't be pinpointed. There's supernatural things going on all over the place, which again, I suppose, is another sign that we're definitely created by an all powerful God for obviously a purpose, and I think our job is more to know what that purpose is. So people have a real problem with the portal idea, but it's a logical conclusion. Once you've satisfied yourself that this circle model can't work because the Earth is two equal halves, and again, the Bohr model wouldn't work. They wouldn't be able to deceive people with the Bohr model if the actual model were, the South was 2, 3, 4 times as big as the North. It just wouldn't work. Maps wouldn't work. For anybody south of the equator, daylight hours would be really wonky. You know what I mean? Like I say, everything's it's equal opposites, two equal opposite halves centered at the equator. So whatever the real model is, whether it's rectangular or rhomboid or diamond or something that I haven't thought of yet, whatever it is, it's two equal halves or equalish halves separate and centered at the equator, which is why the radial circle model, which might have seemed plausible in the 19th century when Rowbottom first came up with it, doesn't work because quite obviously everything south of the equator is much bigger than everything north of the equator, and why flights don't work, and why a lot of flight earthers have to say those flights don't exist, or they advertise them but you can't take them, but flight earthers have been on them. It's a crazy thing to say that reality is not reality. That's not true. Or Antarctic 24-hour daylight doesn't exist. Every single video and every single webcam and every single person that's ever been there is lying that it has 24-hour daylight in December. That's an
interesting one because I worked up north as well, like way north, like 70 degrees and higher,
right?
And Cold Lake, and Crystal Lake, and all up. Christina Lake, not Crystal, Christina Lake and above. And because I worked in the oil industry, and I've personally seen the 24-hour sun up north, and it lasts that's the difference. So in the north, it lasts for 36 days or something. Or maybe more. It's around 36 days, I think, in the summertime.
Right.
And you can't sleep. If you're trying to work a night shift, it's annoying because you get to black out your windows in the camp you're in with tinfoil to keep the light out even, 24/7. And in the south, though, it's only the 24-hour sun does occur, but only for 3 or 4 days, right? So it's about 10% of what it is in the north. So which in and of itself, that kind of debunks the globe thing too, because it should be equal, right? Unless there's,
something to do with the elliptical orbit of
unless the elliptical is doing something really funky. So I'm sure they got an answer for that too. Just a question for you. Like, I noticed that a lot of the debate between, just the actual debate function is kind of that Hegelian dielectric, right? It's almost as if they want you fighting over it to keep you distracted from the truth, right? Do you find that part of kind of what's going on as well, or?
Yeah, well, 100%. But this is why I also said that even so, that there are bigger fish. Believe it or not, there are bigger fish to fry than fish, as well. And I think it does boil down to what's the next question? Well, who's deceiving us, and why have they deceived us? It's a question that obviously all flat earthers get. Why would they lie about it? And I think that comes from a lot of people who don't realise that it's not just about the flat earth. It's that there's no solar system. The whole model is complete. Stellar parallax is a complete fraud. The stars aren't trillions of miles away. They're not suns. They are lights for the earth, and they go over the earth. Obviously 23 hours 56 minutes every day. So the whole thing. But then asking the question once you've realised that, well, who's deceiving us then, and why are they deceiving us? What's the ultimate purpose of that? And I agree with you. I certainly agree. With the globe and the circle model. It's like flat, round, flat. People call it round, but flat sphere, or circle, sphere. I think that's the Hegelian dialectic, or that's the Hobson's choice, if you like. And people can argue about it. Because again, people say, when people say there's more land beyond it, well, what's the difference between more land and more worlds beyond the Antarctic ice wall and more worlds out in outer space? What difference? It's still going to be the same deception. People that think, and people that think that the flat Earth is going to, some acceptance as well. I really can't see it.
Yeah, the thing that I like about the flat model is it does open that door, and it does kind of bring some things back into focus, like takes the reversal. You got to take that Hegelian upside down reversal, everything is backwards, and bring it back to reality. And for me, it opens up the door in the electric side of it. Like, I'm really into with the electrics and magnetism and the focusing and all the higher physics type of things, and that leads to hopefully the movement itself can develop into a free energy type of let's get out of the system completely type of thing. Because if you start understanding you got to go back to the basics of physics. Water's flat, and salt is a dielectric, and the sun is a heat radiation, and that creates electricity. And go back a bit to where perhaps in the past we were a society that had abundant energy, abundant food, abundant resources. Everybody got along in a peaceful situation.
Do you really think we're going to be able to do that?
I don't know. I hope so. I really hope so. And that whether it requires this reset that everybody seems to think is coming down the pipe. You see it coming, right?
Yeah, well, this is what I'm saying. But when I was ranting on before about the Holy War and the alien spaceships and the alien saviors, that's the reset that people are being primed for. In the new age or the new consciousness or the truth movement, it is this. It's come from zeitgeist, really. That's how you political truths, and then sell you the same spirituality, the same religion that the rulers are following. And it's theosophy, it's Freemasonry, Manly P. Hall, it's Plato, it's all this stuff. And obviously there's some truth in it, especially when it starts crossing over, like you're saying, to the electric universe, electromagnetism, free energy, etc. Of course, there's going to be some truth there. And like I say, they will introduce that, and a lot of people are going to go, yeah, we knew it, yeah, we can have this kind of thing, and they're going to bring everything that humanity wants, but it's going to be false, and bringing it to how the Bible describes describes it. It's Revelation 13. It's all the world will wander after him. Everybody will worship him. Everybody will, and then end up taking the mark of the beast. It won't be some kind of horrible microchip. It'll be some really cool tattoo sign or something that you have to say, we're in the reset. We're in the new. This is 5D. This is the new consciousness. And it's like I say, it's actually far more important than this stuff, the false spirituality and what might be the real spirituality and real that's going on. And the false God that's coming is probably more important to realise than like I say, than the fact that the Earth is flat. But if you know the Earth is flat, then anybody that's claiming to be from outer space from another galaxy is absolutely lying, and you're obviously going to be more suspicious of it. So it hell, but then again, it leads back. I'm going to have to get off now, but it leads back into why I'm so passionate about people realizing that we're not on a spinning ball, and why if you show them an alternative false model while you're doing it, they're going to stay on the spinning ball, because it although it doesn't explain why the Earth isn't moving, why everybody lives on top of it, why there's no curvature, why water finds level, it does explain night and day and seasons, and obviously in terms of astronomy, because most people will look to the leaders in the field to tell them. So if leading astronomers, leading astrophysicists, leading scientists of the world, even and even the pretend scientists, the Neil deGrasse Tysons and the Brian Coxes of this world, if they tell them that of course we're on a ball, that's because look at Polaris, look at the two-pole rotation of the stars, and then they're going to stay on it. And and unfortunately it means that the grand deception that's coming, more and more people are going to fall for it. And again, plenty of flat earthers are still going to fall for it, I think. I think because they have to, because don't forget, this thing will include economic exclusion. So it's all very nice, they'll offer a universal basic income to go with the free energy, so nobody will even have to work, or very little, very few. We have to do very, very little work, and it'll be
but that's going to lead to population control and limitations, and the whole that going all that down that path, right? That's eugenics in disguise, right? You got to be careful.
Well, but it would be excuse me, it'll be people like me being killed off, or being at least persecuted, at least ostracized, then persecuted, then economic exclusion, and then finally it will be the final solution. Jesus and Daniel and John all prophesy that it will be a time of trouble such as never was since ever there was a nation. Now, that's since Babylon. So if you think about Stalin, Pol Pot, Genghis Khan, the Roman Empire, load all the persecutions of different kinds of people, murders of American Indians and Maoris, Africa, all over the place. It's going to be a time of trouble worse than all of those. For those who reject, for those who say, nah, this is the Antichrist, this is the false savior, this is this is also short term, because again, the Bible predicts that this period will only last for 3.5 years. And as we know, humans are very, very easy to deceive on a mass scale, and especially if you show them signs and wonders, especially if you show them miracles, especially if you show them people being healed and fire coming down from the sky, and like I say,
that's interesting. When you mention the apparitions in the sky and the false aliens and all that, it ties into the chemtrail thing, because it serves a multi-fold purpose, right? When I looked at the chemical analysis of the chemtrails, and it's exactly the same chemicals that are involved in CRT back screen. It's actually a screen that you can project onto.
What chemical is that?
Well, it's aluminum oxide, boron, and there's some cesium and different things in it. It's exactly the same thing that's on the computer screen. It's liquid crystal display system, essentially. But it also blocks light. It causes anisotropic light, which is why we're seeing funky things around the moon and the rainbow clouds that we never saw before. Last generation. I didn't see them when I was a kid, but they see them all the time now, and it's because it's splitting the light into the RGB color system. So, and I've noticed too that we've seen about a 30 to 40% drop in the efficiency of solar panels in the last 2 years. Right. If you bought a system 5 years ago, what you're getting out of it for power now is extremely less efficient.
I mean, everybody's summer's just gone to shit, hasn't it? Excuse me. But everybody's it was like, where's the summer gone? Where's the blue sky is gone? You get them once in a while, because they can't do it every day. And again, obviously how that affects people's vitamin D levels, which then affects magnesium levels, which then leads on to rather feeds into the poisons in the food and in the water supply and everything else. I mean, I don't think we're being killed off. I think we're being dumbed down. I think we're being made ill. The lethargic, obviously the fluoride effect, if you like. So people were
controlling us then.
Well, it's a maximization. You got to do it. It's like the slow con, right? It's a maximization of profit as you get to your equilibrium, and it's a transition. So they're looking for the balance in the middle, but they're going to suck every dime they can out of the parasitic because it's a parasitic thing, right? So they maximize it until they get to where they want it, right? It's going to be a slow con. Yeah.
Right. So hello everyone, by the way. But so we're no, that's cool. So basically, like, we're talking about the doom and gloom at the moment, but maybe it's time to, like I say, start pushing people learning this system that they're using against us, and with that knowledge, then we don't need a big fight back, because once enough people know the system, we can start using the system against them. And
well, that's what I'm thinking, right? It's with the flat Earth thing. It has that potential to lead to the educating ourselves with the proper knowledge and coming up with ideas and solutions that, when and if, then we're prepared scientifically to do it as an independent community. Like, how do you filter out nanoparticles of aluminum from the air and bring it down and collect it and burn it as fuel? Because it's an awesome fuel, right? So use the weapons that they're using as an energy source. Like, think how to flip it against them, right?
I mean, for sure. And I think, I've forgotten your real name. Eternal Padawan. I think you said something very, very, very important about no need to try and fight back. This big fight back revolution, whatever you want to say. I don't think it's possible. Just look at the infighting in flat Earth. But that happens everywhere. It happens within the truth movement. It happens, in politics. It happens whatever. People can't seem to unite against what is obviously evil running the world in whatever form you prefer to think it is. But what is important about learning this stuff is and I don't mean for on a selfish level, but certainly on a personal level. So you, your family, your friends, neighbours, whatever it is, that you yourself are prepared. I don't think you're going to change the world. I don't think there's going to be any kind of mass awakening, flat Earth or anything else. But if each individual knows this stuff, knows what's coming, then they can be prepared for it. And like you say, if you've got the technical know-how, like Chris said, if you've got the technical know-how to be able to use, their own things against them, then fantastic. I'm not any kind of engineer, but if somebody says, look, all you need is a couple of planks of wood, a funnel, and this crystal and what have you, then no problem. I'll go and build it. You know what I mean? No problem. But like I say, I think those that are hoping for mass awakenings, like I say, flat Earth or just the general truth of the world, I think you're better off spending your time getting personally prepared, because if you're personally prepared, then you can at least help a few others. You will be able to feed a few people who don't want to take part in the system, who don't want to accept the New World Order when it comes. Because like I say, don't forget, the New World Order is not the police state. It's not the horrors that they're doing now. The New World Order is going to be very, very nice. It's going to be whatever New Ager wants. It's going to be whatever religionist wants, atheist, anarchist, truth seeker, etc., unless you're aware that what they're going to offer, is going to be fantastic, but it's who it's coming from and who you will have to swear allegiance to and who you will have to follow after in order to be accepted into it. I think it's far more important to be aware of that and to, like I say, be prepared and be prepared spiritually, emotionally, and physically as well. I think we can, it doesn't mean we stop sharing knowledge. It doesn't mean we stop doing what we do, but rather than trying to wake up the world or trying to or hoping for that kind of thing, obviously try and wake up the people around you or try and learn and teach off each other. But most of the world are going to fall for it. Most of the world are going to and why wouldn't you? I mean, making everybody ill, they're making everybody poor, they're making everybody disaffected and all the rest of it. And they're going to offer all the solutions that they're priming everybody for, like we say, with free energy and all the rest. So it's going to be very, very attractive. But if there's one thing I can do is tell people that it's not going to last long for a start, and those people who take the mark, it's a very, very sticky end for those people. So please don't take the mark. Please don't fall for it. Obviously, the aliens will be false. Every flat earther hopefully is going to know that. But unless you're prepared to be economically excluded, and the pressure people are going to come under as well. Don't forget, the pressure to come on. This is the savior. This is the creator of mankind. Everybody's going along with it. It's all free and love and all. You know what I mean? It'll be every hippie's fantasy. I know I would, you know what I mean?
It's not just believing in the flat earth. We've got to change as people. No one cares about each other anymore. There's too much ego, too much into image. There's all these other things as well.
Yeah, 100%. I shared a wonderful. Is a guy that in opposition to that, I shared a wonderful post. I can't remember it's from in a group Free Britain, and it's just it's a guy I can't remember his name. He's just said his first name. I think it's Frank, and he's a pensioner, and he every night or every other night or at least once a week he makes curries at home for the homeless. You know what I mean? He fills 40 or whatever. What do you call them? They call them aluminium foil trays. With curries and goes and takes them out. And that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of attitude. That's the kind of operation that each person could do. I don't mean obviously specifically that, but in your own life, being like that, trying to help people in a small way. Lots of people doing lots of small things rather than let's all get together and try and topple the government and stuff, because it's just not going to happen. I've been on this point. I wish it would.
Yeah.
Really wish it would.
Yeah, we definitely got to work together as a group to teach each other the basic natural sciences again, and get back to the best way to be independent, and each person being responsible for themselves and independent and self-sufficient and
families.
It's there's some interesting things too that I'd like to do some videos on. Maybe we could talk about other things too. Is from, like I said, I'm into the magnetics and everything, but it's what they call electrets. It's spelled ELECTRECS, like electrics. But what that is, it's materials that they're like a magnet, but the reverse, right? They don't attract and repel like a magnet, but what they do is they store static electricity, and beeswax is one of them, right? When you look at how bees fly and they have the anti-gravitational, how a bumblebee can seemingly be, it's too heavy to fly, but it flies no problem.
Find its way, unless you magnetic field.
And they build their bees nests, with the right hexagonal diametrics in them, and actually that funnels electricity that actually brings energy in for the pupa to grow, right? Because the pupa grows based on a negative field, and it's just amazing science.
I should say though, it is up in the air whether bees make the hexagons or whether it's the soft wax naturally forming into the most efficient shape. So whether bees do it unintentionally or it's just a natural reaction to the soft wax, and that being the most efficient shape to store it.
Programmed into it by God.
Well, it's similar to because the beeswax is a dielectric, right? So as they spit out the wax, right, it's a dielectric medium, which is exactly the same as basalt, which is the salt stone that makes the hexagonal and the 6-sided and 8-sided. It's the most natural electric field, right? And it comes out liquid, and as it freezes, it takes up a negative charge, and it splits it into the hexagonal, which is exactly the same as like Giant's Causeway. Right.
Fascinating stuff. Listen, I'm going to have to get off, and I've really enjoyed this chat. I've enjoyed the fact that we've talked about a hell of a lot in just an hour. So I want to thank you, Karen. Chris, it's been
thank you for coming on, Darren. Darren, before you go though, you have to have a flat Earth hug. Does everybody want to come back to Darren a hug?
Okay.
We have hugs on here. See?
All right. Okay. Series. I might have to tap your head for some tips on Blender at some point.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm learning myself, but I found a way to actually import my elevation data into Blender.
Yeah, I saw it.
I'm using Blender too, Darren. If you want a hand with that as well, and I also do recording, engineering, and music, and I use Pro Logic Studio. So if you need any help with any of that stuff, anytime, let me know.
Oh, nice one, Chris. I'll get in touch with you, and we'll Skype and stuff.
Yeah.
All the best.
Cool. Cheers.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye, Karen.
Thank you for coming on the Hangout, Darren. Thank you again. Oh, well, that went very quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, it covered a lot of information. Yeah.
So, just asking then, Chris, I've put the video out, so you want to change it now?
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know you're going to like take those two sections and put them out as an independent, because I just woke up, so I was going to I wanted to show the other side of all of it, right, as well. So, I mean, leave it up as is. We can just do a follow-up video too, and that's no problem.
Yeah, but actually, part 1 on it then.
Yeah, part 1. Yeah.
I'll do that after the Hangout. I'll change it to part 1.
Part 1, analyzing the moon and the eclipse, and then we'll do a part 2, and we can follow up on that. It just takes me time to get to change all the scales and get the light the other way, right? Yeah.
And thank you, Ceres has lost his echo. Oh,
Well, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I stopped using Blender.
Yeah. The thing with the eclipse is, I want to do some research. I just need a couple of days to do some research in how light propagates through a vacuum, and actually can a shadow be created in a vacuum? We know that light can travel through a vacuum because that's how lasers work, right? But how do shadows work in vacuum, right? So is it actually, according to the laws of physics, possible for a moon to cast a penumbra and a umbra shadow in a vacuum, or is it something that only occurs as it hits the layer of the atmos plane or atmosphere?
Yeah, I still wonder where this particular crystal frequency is.
Yeah.
At the edge, with around that particular atmosphere layers.
Well, that's the thing, is that E8 crystal, right, is changing the light, right? So I really got to think about that, and Ceres is working with the blender now too. So it's going to be fun to see where we end up.
The video anyway, because many people in the chat room might not understand what you and Z Proxy have found.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Although we'll change it to I'll change it to part 1. But Ceres, especially as it hasn't got an echo now. Do you want to play the rest of the video, Ceres?
Yeah.
Here, I'll mute too so people can hear it better. Don't get the background.
Yeah. So we're just going to play the video.
You've got the sun, the moon, even the moon. We've even put in the scan lines what you're seeing in the sky. The moon traveling up and down. It's all, everything's as it is. Well, as they tell you. Sorry. And yeah, it doesn't work. Shadows bigger, lasts a lot longer as well. It goes the wrong way, and as well, it casts these shadows at the back, but it eclipses the moon on a full moon.
Can I ask you something, guys? I mean, I'm not blaming you either, by the way. But how come we're just noticing this now?
I don't think anybody's ever really looked into it, but everyone just takes their word for it, and when you stop taking someone's word for it, look into things for yourself, you notice different things. What we're told.
Yeah, I agree. The shadow should be going from east to west, not west to east, because I couldn't get it to go any other way myself. Unless I put it on a flat plane. If I put it on the flat plane model, and then just do the angles according to a flat plane, it works perfect.
And then they said to Darren the other night, didn't they, that it happens that way because the moon rotates faster. So then in that case, the moon would be travelling backwards across the sky the opposite way for it to happen. How they were explaining it.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way though. No.
Right. You've got to have what you see in reality. It's got to work on the model. Right. And that just clearly isn't. So I don't think anybody's ever really looked into it. But everyone just takes their word for it, and when you stop taking someone's word for it, look into things for yourself, you notice different things. What we're told.
Yeah, I agree. The shadow should be going from east to west, not west to east, because I couldn't get it to go any other way myself. Unless I put it on a flat plane. If I put it on the flat plane model, and then just do the angles according to a flat plane, it works perfect.
And then they said to Darren the other night, didn't they, that it happens that way because the moon rotates faster. So then in that case, the moon would be travelling backwards across the sky the opposite way for it to happen. How they were explaining it.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way though. No.
Right. You've got to have what you see in reality. It's got to work on the model. Right. So that just clearly isn't. You wouldn't believe the amount of work Z Proxy has put into making it.
And just to explain why, they're trying to say that, like that's their excuse. They're saying, oh, well, it's because the moon's traveling fast. But if you think about it in terms of a simple gear, right? The closer you get to the center of a gear, the faster the object moves. So the bigger the arc that the moon would swing, the slower it would go because the Earth, right? The further away it gets, the slower.
It is traveling at a greater speed, but it's not rotating faster. It's farther away, so it is going faster in the model, but it's slower than the spin. Because they said every 28 days of rotation on the Earth is one rotation of the moon, but then that's not what they showed in their model. They showed the moon spinning round quicker than the Earth was spinning, so it would have been spinning backwards.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just watched it and thought this is total rubbish. I had to comment, and I commented on Darren's. Well, it was on Antonio's copy of it. But yeah. So,
well, the other thing too is if you think about it in terms of a year, so the moon is locked into sync with the Earth, right? And it does the 27-day cycle. But both the moon and the Earth in the globe model are locked in with the sun. So both would only move 1 degree per day over a 360-degree ellipse over an entire year, right? So you can't say that now both are traveling so fast relative to the sun that the the shadow goes backwards. That fails too. Right?
Yeah.
There's no way they can talk their way out of it.
No, it just fails. That's why he's gone through so much effort to make what he's made, just to prove it does not work.
Yeah.
You know? There is no arguments with that model.
Yeah.
That's why we're showing it. If someone says we're doing something wrong, tell us. We'll put it right. You know, this is what we want. Like, you know, any input, criticism, anything, come and question it. Tell us what we're doing right. Because the only way I can see that we can put that right is to flip the Earth upside down, and then everything's spinning backwards anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
And he found the same thing I did too. In order to get a shadow that small on the surface of a ball, the scale and the size, and bring the moon in a lot closer to the ball object to get a shadow that small to appear. Because if you take a ball near a surface and move it away from the surface, the shadow gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it just diffuses into nothing.
He made the shadow right. He pulled the moon closer to make it right.
Yeah, I had to do the same thing. So I mean, that's the only way it works. So you have to bring the moon so close in order to get that shadow that it just blows the lunch anyway. Yeah, there's only one way to make a shadow that small.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's a great job.
I said to Z-Proxy earlier today, though, I said we're going to be gutted if the shadow does go that way, and that's about it. You know, but I can't see it myself.
It's awful, the deception, and they know it doesn't work, and they're still going to put it out and lie to you.
Yeah, that's why we've got to show what Z-Proxy's been doing. You know, push it, and all of these we need to show it to everyone and say, come on, answer the questions. How can that be? That's a working model. It's better than anyone in NASA or anything like that's showing us. And you know, no one else has put that much effort in the mainstream to come up with anything like that.
Who do you go to though? Who can you go to? I mean, this is what I find really amazing. Like all those observatories, this great big telescope, and they know the stars are only so many miles away, and they've been telling us about I'm not saying the Milky Way is not there, but it's not light years away and all that. And who do you go to tell this to? Excuse me.
Well,
I shared it to my Facebook page this morning. Maybe be a good idea to put hashtags to it. You know.
Yeah, just I don't do any social media or anything like that.
I suppose we're left to these kind of hangouts and hope that other people think, you know, because it's dispelling what we live on for sure. It's proof.
Yeah, well, people are watching. There's 69 people watching now, so let's just hope there's some, you know, people.
Yeah, share this hangout.
Yeah, share. Go on Z-Proxy's channel and share. Oh, it's on Cosmic Surfers page as well. It'll soon be up on mine. Just go on there, share it everywhere. Say, look, there's problems with this. Don't worry.
I always, because Chris knew that it didn't work on his model. You know,
Yeah.
we were going to try and push, you know, get him to talk about it a few times to prove to people it can't happen. But obviously, there's that video now.
Well, yeah, what Chris was showing, this is just a bit more in detail, isn't it? But it's exactly the same as what Chris was showing the other day. But this is just like I say, you can put the goggles on with this and sit there and watch it in a virtual world, like how it's meant to play out.
I mean, obviously, I didn't do it, and maybe you didn't do it, but it's just amazing that just an ordinary person can spend time, put it together, and just immediately prove it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's like, what have we been doing? You know, we're supposed to be in this sort of high technology, and we're going to Mars, and all. You know,
It just doesn't work.
petition.
Yeah. It needs someone though. It needs someone now though to come forward and try and argue it. You know, try and say,
Someone big. I mean,
yeah, look, you've gone wrong here, and then we'll go away and change it, and then come back and then say, well, you know, it's got to depict what's going on above your head. You can't change the rotation of the Earth, the Moon. You can't. That's what we're told. And basically, if you were to put a camera that was on Earth, that would be roughly what you would see above your head, because it does all sort of work apart from the shadows going the wrong way.
But it just seems really incredible that it's not, you know, someone like Chris and Video, you know, they've worked it out, haven't they? Like, how can none of these astrologers work that out then?
They're not paid to. They get a paycheck. We don't get a paycheck. That's the difference.
That's true. It's really bad, isn't it? Just the lies. There's just so many of them, and they just get worse. Well,
if you go into work and finish your job, you're out of a job. You know, they don't want to be out of a job. They want to keep going into their little tin hut every night and opening their chute and looking at the stars, and getting paid for it.
I suppose I used to look up and think that they were millions of miles away, but now I look at them and I just think you're only miles away.
Yeah. Well, we all did.
Yeah.
Everyone did. I used to go and sit out on a starry night on the downs and just look at the stars and think, wow, how wrong I was.
You didn't realise they were just there, did you? You didn't realise they were just in front of you.
Right.
And the other thing I think that people don't think about much is that when you have this sun in your sky, we'll just pick a magic 40 miles from where if you had no trees or houses, 40 miles to the east, and then we'll just put 40 miles to the west. It takes hours to go across there, and at the same time, they've got sun in New York and America, while it's taking 14, 16 hours just to do 40 miles over your head.
Yeah, well, I was going to actually try and work out the time that eclipse is taken from the 360 footage Proxy's done. I was going to work out the rotation and how long on that video it's saying it's going to take. But it's obviously a lot longer than what it will take. There's just so many problems with it.
Will he come on a hangout then?
I don't know if Proxy will. He likes to be listening.
Well, I've missed that Saturday party anyway, and I haven't really been following that take truth. So maybe
I had to bring the moon really, really close in the model. I did too, and then scale it down somewhat to make the shadow 72 miles across roughly. Right. So the shadow.
Just another now, isn't it? Just one more now.
Yeah.
Proxy's in the chat room, by the way. You've been showing your video.
Yeah, he's been there for quite a while.
Yeah, maybe I'll have a look into that then, because like I say, I've been ill this weekend, so I haven't really done a lot.
Yeah, we can run Z Proxy's video game too, but I can show you on the model in a physical sense too. The same problem. If you want to just present it, I can talk through it real quick.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Because like I say, I haven't really had it. I'll look into it.
There you go, Chris.
So here's the globe, and I wrapped the after 100 years around the globe, and this one here where the shadow starts in the North Pacific. And you can see the date. Not shown.
It's on my one.
Is it?
Let me just refresh the chat room to see if it's coming up there. Hang on a sec. Sorry, everybody.
I can reshare it too if you let me know.
I can see that.
Okay, then, cool.
Okay. I'll try to move it slow so it doesn't, because this is a live refreshing model, right? It has to render everything. So in the bigger picture there, you can see I got the map of the eclipse in that blue line. So there's a shadow on August 21st, 2017. So this path, the eclipse actually starts in the North Pacific, south of Alaska. It makes landfall on California coast around 10 o'clock in the morning, leaves the East Coast north of Florida about 3:17. So it's about a 4-hour trip back across. So the speeds kind of work out roughly. The speed works out. And then it will finish just past somewhere east of Africa. Yeah, be west of Africa, I guess.
Yeah, because in the UK, you should just catch we might be able to just see a little bit of it, actually.
A glimpse of a dimming sky, that's about all you're going to see. Yeah. But what you can see is, so if you look at the second screen where I'm rotating the little ball there, so the top one that's like the gray without the rendering, that's the target. So you see I got the camera pointed at the moon. There's the ball and there's the moon. And you can see how close I had to bring the moon to get that shadow. And if I move that at all.
Yeah, but that's not 30 Earths away, is it?
I had to bring it in within 10,000 kilometers or something of the scale. So if you grab that at all, and if I move it, you'll see that the shadow gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The further away it goes, it just disappears.
Exactly.
So anyway, I'll put it back where it was so you see the shadow. Just to confirm the setup of the shot here. So I put the camera's approximately, the camera's looking dead on the moon. So you can see that I got the moon in the right phase. It is a new moon, so it's like an eclipsed moon, like it's a new moon. Right. In order to do a new moon, you have to have the sun approximately, give or take 90 degrees behind the moon to light it up from the back side. So it's black on this side. It's a dark new moon.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, so then you can see, so those are the first two things. The first thing that doesn't work out is the size. And we know that the Earth, if I rotate it, so here's the problem, right? You have to keep that shadow at a full eclipse. So this is 100% eclipse going the whole way, right? So I can't make any angular changes in the shadow. So so if I rotate the moon and the sun, and the Earth at the same time, rotate on the Z-axis, on the zenith, I look at the sun, you'll see that what happens is the shadow starts to spread because I've changed the angle between the moon and the sun, right? Yeah. You see it spreads out now, right? So I lose my focus because I've now changed. I'd have to actually move the sun, the moon, and the Earth all at the same time on the same zenith to maintain a perfect shadow. So that doesn't work. So there's where it fails one time there. I can make it work.
Just my one question. Wouldn't it be from each observer's view? Like obviously, as the moon passes by, each observer will get to see the actual eclipse as they move further down. Just from there, you viewing angle within the red line. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, if I can show you what happened here, I actually answer that
That was
question.
my question. Like, surely the reason the shadow would be is because it's from each unique viewing perspective on that line, and that angle they need to be looking at to see the totality kind of thing.
So what happens if I do that? If I take the Earth, the camera, which is you on the ground, and the moon, and rotate it relative to the sun. So we'll keep the sun heliocentric in the middle. And if I rotate you with the Earth and the moon, you'll see that it screws it up too. Because if I rotate you away, keeping you focused on the moon, eventually the moon comes into its phases, see, right? So it doesn't work that way either, right? So the only way you can do it is to rotate the ball. If you rotate the ball on the game, keep the shadow going.
That's a problem, isn't it? The moon wouldn't rotate that fast in the heliocentric model if it was at the correct distance, would it? You know what I mean?
No. They say it does move faster, but even if those angles, well, you lose the shadow anyway. That's the first.
That's what I mean. You can't have best of both, can you? If you know what I mean? You can have one or the other.
No.
Yeah, I understand.
But what I can do is I can make the shadow go the right way that they're saying it's supposed to go, but I have to rotate the Earth back, right? And that's the only way it works. I can follow that path precisely, but now I'm rotating the Earth in the wrong direction, right? And that's the only way it works. So as far as I'm concerned, it's impossible to do it any other way. And I'll show you too, just for argument's sake. If let's line it up here, I'll move the moon. Let's move it so that rotate on the Z. I'm going to just line up the shadow dead center of the United States here, roughly on that blue X. I'll spin it around a bit so you can see it. Let it render for a second. To show you the consequences, let's say that the Earth, the moon, and you are all basically stationary, and I rotate the sun relative to you on the ground. And you see you end up with the same problem, right? Because now everything is moving and it starts to spread the angle, and eventually the moon comes into its face, right? The same problem is you end up creating moon phases, right? So if I bring nighttime, what's supposed to happen is it's supposed to be about 10 o'clock in the morning in the shadow, right? So if I'm moving the sun to the Earth, then it messes it all up again, right?
Yeah.
You just end up creating moon phases, right? So it don't work, man. It could work, all I'm saying.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't work because you can't have best of both, can you? Like I say, it's either one or the other kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a strange one. I haven't really looked into it, to tell you the truth. Like, only one of the videos I've seen popping up on YouTube and that. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Maybe I'll look a bit more into this, like, because we keep looking from the heliocentric model, but there's not many looking to it from the flat Earth perspective. I know Antonio Subaras has done quite a little bit on it, hasn't he? So that'd be interesting.
It works fine on the flat model. Like on the flat model, if you keep the sun rotating in like the donut shape you're looking at before, right? And then you do the donut with like what Stan is seeing with the moon, and then you just keep the moon roughly where it is in that position, and then bring the sun up around it over the top. Well, then the angle of the shadow goes west to east, just exactly the way it's supposed to, as the moon passes over top. It works perfect.
Because what I did look at, though, because the moon is actually on southern declination all through that, isn't it? So it's heading south, if you know what I mean. I noticed on the shadow that comes in from the top, then you get totality, and then it goes out like a V shape, isn't it?
Yeah, at first it does like a W-shaped type deal. It comes in, it drops down, then it goes back to the center, and then it drops again. So for me, that tells me exactly what we're seeing is that there's an angle difference between the sun and the moon, and it's just because they're two different pitches, right? The pitch is changing between the two, and as the arc changes between the two, well, then you get a sine wave. That's the way I see it. But you can see I got the model set up here, right? I mean, I got the equator dead on, and then I got the 5-degree inclination, and the sun's out beyond. And
all them other lines on there, the other eclipses you had throughout the years.
Yeah, if I zoom in on the ball, if I make this a little bit smaller here. So these are all the eclipses for the next 100 years, roughly 100 years on this map. I think there's 100 lines. And the other eclipses that don't work either on the ball model are the ones that travel over the North Pole. The only way to get that shadow in June, like the 2021 eclipse on June 10th, it starts in northern Canada, goes right over Iceland, over Greenland, and then back over into China, right? So it actually doesn't have to cross the North top on the ball model. The only way to make that work is to take the moon physically and move it all the way to the top North Pole, then bring the sun up the other side, right? And have the sun coming down from above, right? So we know that don't work because you can't move the moon out of its 5-degree inclination. So how does that work?
God knows.
Okay. So none of these eclipses work, in my opinion. I can't get any of the work. I've tried.
Haha, that's the end. That's the end. Oh, series Echo. Anyway, Chris, just ask Chris to come back. Chris, we've been making that because it's just to prove that things that even they say for their globe just don't work.
Right. Yeah, I've been trying to see just to do to reverse it, right? Just like Darren was saying, to do the investigation into the other side to see if it works or not. Right? Just to look at both sides.
And What bit do you want to add to it now? Because we said part 1 now on the video. I've changed it. So what do you want to add?
I'm going to try and do another model and then take the moon out and scale everything to where it's supposed to be as far out and put the moon at 90 or the sun at 92 million miles and the moon at 280,000, whatever it's supposed to be, 92 million miles, I think it is. But anyway, I'm going to try and do another one to scale it and see if the light will diffuse the way it's supposed to. Because I think it's not so much rotation and angles and speeds, because I think like Darren was saying as well, if you set it up and rotate things according to the current globe model, you can make the shadow do the west to east thing if you force it to do it that way. But I think the light diffuses a little bit differently. So it's more the shadow thing is going to be where it won't work out properly. Like the actual size of the shadow and the way the shadows focus. Because we have to remember that the atmosphere is only on the globe model. The atmosphere is only so thick, right? To cause a shadow to focus into a point, I think that's where you might learn some more little things that don't really seem to work. So
yeah, there's got to be a few people that have done this, but hardly anybody has gone and checked it themselves. So thank you very much for Z Proxy and for you, Chris, for spending all that time doing what you've done. We very much appreciate you finding the truth for us.
Yeah, the investigation continues. I mean, so far, I guess my professional opinion would be that the globe model, as far as the eclipses are concerned, I haven't debunked it 100% yet. I'm not sure whether it can be or not, because I'm sure they've had 200 years to try to perfect the model, so it's going to be a little tricky and everything works out right. But it's the numbers that are strange too. You know, what are the odds of having a perfectly spherical globe, which I know for fact isn't reality, because I've surveyed enough to know that it's not. And also with the geodetic model, like the actual standard, it doesn't even use a globe itself. So I mean, there's so many things wrong with the globe. But this is just an investigation specific to eclipses. But
yeah, because we have to keep these records ourselves, don't we? Because it's the people that is doing this research, isn't it? There's all the NASA, whatever governments, and there's the observatories, and everybody's just covering up the lies.
Yeah, the geodetic ellipsoid, right? Because when we do surveying, it's all to an ellipsoid, and that's to a fictional point of gravity. And we know that gravity has no basis really, other than just it was a number that's a derivative of what was missing in electricity. Essentially, things fall based on charge density and buoyancy, and and relative to displacement. So they came up with a number that seems to solve all the equations. But gravity is just a fiction, right? It's 9.8 meters per second squared, because they found that it's a trick of mathematics. You can say, well, like the number 9 type of thing, right? If you multiply or divide everything by 9, it all goes back to 0 and blah, 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 blah. It's just one of those mathematical constants, right? So gravity's not really a force. It's a mathematical constant, a derivative. That's all it is. It's just one of those things in nature that seems to pop up everywhere. But what they did, so they set the center of mass to that mathematical constant and called it a sphere. And it's not really a sphere. Yeah. No. Mathemagic.
No, it's not.
So where I'm at with it now is I'm still working to investigate the eclipses. But so we'll do a follow-up part 2, maybe.
Yeah, because we'll, as flat earthers, we always have to prove everything a million times, even though they've been lying to us for years.
Yeah, and Mike, I think Mike what's his last name? Mike Helmick, maybe. Yeah, he's doing the same thing as I am too. Right, he's got a model and he's working on the same thing, and he's using Blender as well to look at shadows. And so I might just wait and see what he comes up with as well, or see if we come up with the same conclusion. I'm still going to work on mine independently. Yeah.
What do you think then, Series? Series is tired, aren't you, Series? Series has been doing some Blender work, haven't you, Series, with Blender? Do you want to show us anything then? Echo would start.
Yeah.
Is it something you can show without any volume on, or do you want to talk when you're... Or could you just show one picture of it or something and then talk us through it?
Yeah, I can show a simple model.
And just to explain to everybody, and Series get much sleep anymore. And when they do, they have naps at the wrong time, like they're having them in the afternoon, or they go to bed in the morning, like 10 o'clock in the morning. And they're working really, really hard to show us all this stuff. Really hard, aren't you guys?
Oh, yeah. Non-stop, it seems.
Well, we all appreciate you.
That's the goal, just to keep working away until you find out, the truth while doing other things. Like I try not to make this my entire focus, but but as I discover little things, well, I try to do it. I try to multitask it, right? As I find something that, in either sense, if I find something that doesn't work on the flat model, then I'll investigate that. If I find something that doesn't work on the globe model, then I'll look into that and see how that works out from a electrical standpoint. So I'm trying to learn the electrical and actual physics, like forces and dynamics and fluid dynamics. I look at all that to see how it applies, because it opens up a lot of doors in understanding materials processing, which it's eventually like I'd like to get back into that at some point, and which all this applies to. Right? You know, simple things too. Like if you have a 1 million gallon tank and you had it sitting on like either pole or an equator on a spinning ball, well, then the forces of velocity would change the amount of horsepower, because the rotation will change, right? According to the globe model, then you'd have to change the horsepower of the motor to spin the tank. And so now looking back at my career in the construction thing, I can clearly see that, well, I didn't consider all that stuff before. So, but now I want to go back and relearn it from a new perspective.
From a flat earth perspective.
Yeah, it is totally different, right? It's everything makes a lot more sense. A lot of things are a lot easier. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Series, did you want to show us anything, or you're not going to show us anything, even a picture?
I don't know. It doesn't load or something. It doesn't give me an error or something. Oh, wait. Just no data.
Yeah, and usually these hangouts, guys, means that they go away and do even more, because something will be said in the hangout and that'll, thought, and then Chris or Series go off and model it again.
That's what I'm doing right now. Is I'm trying to. You might hear me clicking in the background. I'm working on the other one too, with the moon out at the farther distances to see if it'll actually cast a shadow that way.
I mean, some people are going to say, well, they'll come up with answers to why it's like that, but how can they be showing it where the globe has to go the wrong way to make the pattern, to make the eclipse? Why would they do that, do you think, Chris? I mean, it's just always going to be like that children's thing, you know, the emperor's clothing, the children, you know, the story. Is it always going to be like that they were just able to do it and we just didn't question it?
Well, it's conformalism, right? You can mathematically like, even if it's so you get the shadows are occurring in the flat realm, but you can conform it to a ball model and change all the distances, because, you know, who has the ability to measure the distance from here to the moon? Like, you can't confirm it, right? So it's conformalism. It can't be denied and it can't be proven. So, you know, by the common person very easily, right? So trying to bust the globe model, like using their own numbers in physics, is quite a daunting task. It's going to be hard to find that little needle in the haystack that says, well, this is where it completely fails. I mean, other than general observations like Darren was saying too, water's flat, right? Everything's flat. Everybody has perspective. You know, the sun always comes to you. I mean, there's thousands of reasons why, common sense reasons why, but to bust the science of the model from the orbital sense, you know, heliocentric model itself is quite a daunting task, because they've had 200 years to work it out and actually design it that way, right? It's all the textbooks are, you know, mathematically correct, but that's conformalism, right? It's been conformed and deformed. I could take given enough time, I could take the flat model and apply it to a triangular, double, triple triangular thing that's, you know, flying around and in a puddle of water, you know, on the back of a duck, and make it work out mathematically given enough time, right?
Or don't they make new words up now? Like when they talk about these things in the space and all that, they've just made some words up now, haven't they? Just so they can get another excuse in there.
Like, any examples? What kind of words do they come up with now?
I can't remember now. I just remember like just the way they use some of the words, and just like they're not even in the dictionary, because it's ways of explaining it. I can't think of any off now. That's not very good of me, but they've made words up so they can explain a new way, or whatever it is, their way. I'll have to find it for you. Is Series going to show us a picture?
It works.
He's still fiddling. Dee, what did you make of any of that, or can't you tell because you're in the chat room?
No, it's all very interesting stuff. I mean, I never really got to grips with eclipses, so a lot of this is over my head, I've got to say. But it certainly does seem that, like I say, just spin in the wrong direction and shit to make it work, and something funky's going on.
The reason is, guys, it's just that we need as much proof as possible. If their own sort of diagrams and their own sort of tools don't add up, it's just another way of getting them for the truth. Series, are you battling away there?
No, my blender is more.
It's a problem I have when we've got too many things going on my computer. It just doesn't do things, and it takes so long, which is why I asked Series to do it. But now he's using Blender, he's got the same problem. Well, is there anything else to talk about tonight then? Because we've had Darren, We've talked about the eclipse don't work on the ball model, which they've been telling us for years, and they don't work. Dee, do you want to explain a little bit about your trip down to Cornwall then?
Well, if you want, I mean, there's been a FEUK meet going on in Cornwall. Started Friday, ended yesterday. A few people stayed on till today and stuff, but I think it's mostly for packing up and going home. But yeah, no, it's a great time. Wakey was there, Mark Knight. He did a little talk in a tent for like 10-15 minutes. I mean, there'd be a lot of footage coming out on probably John Smith's channel. He was doing a lot of filming there. I mean, I did go live for 1 hour and 40 minutes myself, but there were a lot of people that didn't want to be filmed, so it's mostly just me yapping into the camera and a bit of Dave Murphy yapping in the background. But yeah, no, it's been a great time. We've all been sitting around having a good smoke, having a good laugh, loads of good conversations going on. I mean, there was a couple of young teenagers there as well, so we're like spreading this knowledge to the younger people and stuff as well. Some observations done, mostly of the sun and stuff. We watched ISS go over last night with our naked eyes. Yeah, that went over last night. Took 6 minutes, but yeah, we all watched it. Unfortunately, the batteries on my P900 ran out about 2 minutes before it went over, so I couldn't record it.
Is the ISS, you mean?
Yeah, the ISS. I
was very jealous you've met Dave Murphy.
Yeah, I even got a few hugs with him. I even met his mum on a video chat. So yeah, some good stuff. Because he was staying down in a cottage down in Millbrook in a village. And yeah, I was going back with him and Mariam Wisby and Cosmic Cat in the evenings, just sitting around the kitchen table having a good yap and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, one night.
It's nice though, isn't it, Dee? We're talking about things that have happened.
Yeah, no, this is it. And I mean, there's going to be loads of meets coming up in the next month. I mean, Jamie Brown's got a meet going on. Martin Leakey's got a meet going on. There's a couple more FEUK meets. There's even going to be a balloon launch on the 18th to the 20th. So if anybody...
We'll put the dates up in the group as we go along to remind people.
Yeah, if anybody wants to join the FEUK group on Facebook and attend this balloon launch, they're also going to be able to get access to cheap festival tickets as well. So it's going to be a really good weekend, I hope, that weekend.
And not to forget that April next year there is a Flat Earth. It's been changed from conference to convention now because of the amount of things that are going on. So we've got that coming, and then there's one in America in November. So these are all things that are happening. These weren't happening last year, were they?
No, this is what I mean. And yeah, it's just great to see all this kind of happening. And I do advise anyone, if you can get to a meet, just get to a meet. Honestly, it's just so much fun. You can, even if you're not into talking to people yourself, you can just sit there and listen to conversations going on around you, and it's just great to be in an atmosphere where you know people, even if they're not going to agree with everything you say, they've definitely at least got a similar mindset. So it's a whole new experience. It really is.
We were so happy in Leamington Spa, weren't we, that we all met up? We were just ecstatic, I think, with that banner on the floor and going up and down with Flat Earth on it and no trouble from anybody else and no one sort of spitting on you or whatever. It was brilliant.
Yeah, no, it really was. It really was. Yeah. And I actually met a couple more local people to me as well. So hopefully I'll be doing a few more local meets as well, just not necessarily filming them and stuff. But I now know there's at least 2 people that are within 10-20 minutes of me. So it's great.
Maybe they'll help you do that sun one, Dee, you know, with possibly. The sun to your feet.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I'm thinking of maybe getting a sandwich board made up and marching up and down Plymouth. I'd getting them to film me, so we'll see.
But everybody can take a picture and show that the sun only comes to your own feet and not anybody else's in your perspective. And then they look and the sun's coming to their feet and not coming to yours. I think it's really important that people try and do that one, because that's a little test they can do themselves, and then they realise the sun is different than you thought.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people will explain it away with the mirror effect, but as far as I'm concerned, it's your own perspective that explains the mirror effect rather than the mirror effect explaining away what you're seeing. So,
Thank you for that, Dee. It's just great that some of these things have been happening. I think it is anyway. So, Ceres, what is Ceres showing us? I'm going to present Ceres now.
This is the middle square level 10.
So this is your work, Ceres, just to explain to everybody, because you know that Ceres has done his own work. So you're showing us, carry on, Ceres.
Yeah, I've managed to get the elevation data in an importable file for Blender. Scale the elevation. think it's in random mode a bit heavy.
So Series doing this is something new, isn't it, Series?
Yeah, a bit heavy animating stuff. This is a complete movie animator, and you can actually build every pixel within the whole movie.
Wow.
Yeah. And then you have all these particular physics as well. So out of there, you can create a movie, etc.
Can you just tell everybody what they're looking at, Series, when it renders a bit more, just in case people aren't sure what they're looking at?
Yeah. This is just a world.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because Siri's only had this for 3 days, and he's already doing more with it than I've been able to. Because I've only had it too. I've had Blender for about month, maybe 2 months. So I'm learning it at the same time. Like, this is going to be fun. See what Siri does with it. Yeah.
I'm not sure. How the hell do I get all in? Or this is just slow.
One moment, everybody. There you go. Aha.
I'm going to share this too. Did I just exit out?
Sorry, Chris?
No, maybe I didn't. Oh, I just lost the. I was going to share the screen, and I lost the. I thought maybe I accidentally kicked myself out of the chat.
No, you're still here. So Series.
Series.
Yeah. What Series? Go on, Series. Explain what they're looking at.
The world elevation data. Oh, it's still not bright enough.
Yeah, Series is still working out how to use it, aren't you, Series?
Yeah, there's so much options here.
Need to say something, Series. We're live.
Say something.
Say something, Series.
There's more. I could particular shadows as well.
We've just got to wait for it to render, have we?
Yeah, it uses about little 1200 megabytes.
Wow.
Just for this particular layer, and then in the just random mode, you would actually render this. You can shut something down, so speeding up. You see it build up as a wave from the middle. Yeah, as soon as I move it, it has to re-render. But you're basically looking at Africa in the middle, and then Greenland left, and then Antarctica on the right.
Well, Greenland is quite big then, isn't it? Tall still.
Yeah, you need to add more light sources.
Has it still got to do a bit more, Series? Or is it finished?
I don't know where it is.
Real research happening, guys, because Series is learning how to use Blender. And Chris can't help you either because he's learning to use it. Do you think we should come back when it's finished rendering, Series? Because we're live and people don't want to sit there for 20 minutes listening to nothing.
I brought up a picture there too. Yeah.
What Series is rendering? It's coming now, isn't it? Would you reckon you're there, Series?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, 1 second, Chris. He's there now. Wow.
So that's all the Google data that's now into Blender in an elevation map. Is that right, Series?
Yep.
I think you'll find that this will speed up the process of trying to analyze a lot of that data and see what's what.
Yeah, for sure.
So is this a one-to-one amplification, or is it 300? Is it still amplified 300 times?
The square divided by the zoom level 10, 1 to the power of 2 to the power 10 by 2 to the power 10 pixels.
Can I ask you what all that blue is next to South America then, Series?
I've just given it a blue skin color.
Right.
Just mixing with colors. I don't have a hand of the coloring and lighting and all that stuff. That's a whole new chapter in that sense. Same as the normal photographic stuff. It's all in there. It's just I amplified it. I haven't selected it.
And when you were doing your other elevation map, or the other one with all the colours in it, the sea that's around South America, Africa to Australia, and that is very deep, isn't it?
Yep.
Above Russia is not so deep, although it has deeper bits in it, but it's a lot shallower there than the water there. So you're doing this to be able to film it, Series, to make a simulation?
Yeah, at least zoom into the micro detail as far as I have. And then even for actually every pixel, I can have a complete image as a square to zoom into the image. And I can eventually even completely completely scan the resolution of the image. It's just a huge amount of data to actually have. This square alone is 36 megabytes, the data file. I'm not sure how big it is when you save it.
Do you think for the chat room, you just, or anybody who's watching, just explain that you found the elevation data which shows us to be that shape? Just explain a little bit more about that series, just in case people are looking at that and going, "What's that?" Because don't forget, we've been talking today. A lot of people believe in the circle map.
Yeah, in Google Maps, you have not only images, but you have also an ability to request an elevation on a particular GPS location. And images themselves are actually stored in an XY grid in zoom levels. And there is a particular formula to translate between the GPS format and the photographic format. And they show eventually only within that formula the middle square, and it actually has a dimension of 3 squares in the photographic dimension. And for the north and the south, there are no images. But the elevation data was available beyond the 85 latitude. So I began scanning beyond there, and that added up to actually physically a complete square. What is a complete square like in the middle? It's like a whole Earth square beyond. And in the south, the same. And that's just within the elevation data. Yeah, and there's a lot to study in this data to actually see what the details show and what the nature of this whole matter side of reality is. So far, east-west just connects to each other. I can fold it into a tube so that it actually connects as a rollable tube. And fourth dimension is kind of a double tube with yourself as a bubble within the middle of the tube. And that's how you perceive the whole world by walking the circle through the fourth dimension and by walking the three-dimensional dimension. And it joins together where you perceive it from, and there everything actually is built up on in the whole sky dynamics for what you perceive in the sky on any particular location. And you have these particular north-south deviations and special things there in also the pillars and how magnetical fields are actually occurring on the Earth. And there is so much more dynamic beyond this. This is just the Earth layer. You have also the water, you have also the air, you have also the ether of the fire and the ether, and all are actually sciences on their own, particular branches within the knowledge. And I can only do so much in that sense. I hope many others are actually studying it and getting an essence out of it, getting the whys, and then teach the whys so that we can actually figure out any hows ourselves. Kind of not giving the fish only, but actually teach us to learn fishing in that sense that you can provide for yourself. And that's the whole thing here, that is the shared part here. The freedom is ensured by our own effort to put it in the world and be that freedom. We can try to break everything down, what we hate. Eventually, it's only building up what we can build up for ourselves. And together, people all that stuff in the world is just distractions of where we are, who we are, and what we're actually doing here. I mean, the perspective is completely different. You're just a pixel in the middle on two circles in dimensions, and actually a third one upwards as well, the sixth dimension. And as a whole, an atom again in the seventh dimension, sort of fruit of life, full of new seeds. And that's the whole growth things, a growth cycle, which is not only in nature, but also towards heaven. It seems universes are growing in awareness, knowledge, the true treasures in heaven. In that sense, our roots are in heaven, and our brains are in our head, and our heads are our heavens. And it's a game within the heart and the mind, the resonance, and then also the left, right, the balance, kind of a trinity. I think. Two above, one below. The heart frequency needs to be in order, and that's the heart chakra in that sense. Climbing up the chakras out of Sodom and Gomorrah, like the Santos describes this through his work.
Thanks for that series. Ongoing though, yeah? Ongoing research.
Yeah, I'm going to try to load a particular detail in a high level, high zoom level. This is the complete 10 level square, level 10 square. Yeah, level 11 just chokes my computer.
Yeah, well, your computer's doing enough anyway, because it's probably still downloading Google, isn't it? So just doing about 20 things at once.
Yeah.
Chris, you were going to show us a picture?
Yep, just a second. second here. I'll screen share.
So when series is quiet and there's things going on, he's going to be continuing with what he's doing there.
Yeah,
I'm kind of doing the same thing, so I haven't really stopped the live.
What percentage you now?
As research, the research comes up, ideas are added. Let me save this one here. Save as. Not sure what you can see there. Can you see the? Oh,
I'm
yeah.
seeing the black.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see the globe.
The moon.
With the moon.
Yeah, so this one's to scale, right? So I'm trying to see if the shadow would actually be able to do what they say it does. So it's a little early yet to call it, but it's from that distance. I've got it to scale now. Already, it's out at its proper dimensions. The moon is at 238,900 miles out from the Earth. The Earth is at 23.44 degrees tilt XY. We got the scale. The diameter is right at 7,970.5 miles. The moon is at 2,159 miles diameter, and the distances are right. And the sun, I got at 9.2 million miles away approximately, and so far I'm not seeing a shadow anywhere unless I change it to a hemispherical light source. Then I gotta look at that and see what's going on, because it's just kind of strange, because I can do that and then rotate the moon, rotate on the Z. Here, see, if I rotate the moon on the Z, it'll do the west to east thing, but it's got to be a hemispherical light. So I don't know, very interesting. But if it's just a natural sun, there's no shadow at all. So I don't know. The investigation continues and the plot thickens, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure would be a scatter. That's without anything in there as far as atmospherics go. Yet I have to add another layer to the globe there to make some atmospherics.
I wonder how I can actually lay over the whole image over this particular elevation map, all the colors and such. It's just one big image, and I could switch images as well.
Yeah. I was going to show another picture there too, just to kind of go back so we're not lagging here too much. What Darren was talking about. Let me stop sharing here. Can you share? Not so much on the doom and gloom, but it was interesting listening to Darren talking there, and as he was going through the way he sees things, it just brought up an image. It's almost a perfect play-by-play of the 2017 Economist cover that came out in December of 2016. So before Donald Trump's election, this magazine cover was published, and The Economist is one of the magazines that's owned by and caters to the globalist bankers and elite type of people. It's all about economics and big money. Like the big players read this magazine.
The Wheel of Fortune.
Well, yeah, as he was, talking, obviously this is Merkel is Germany, because they got the German flag. This is the Netherlands lady that I think that was in an election. This is the other guy that lost. And if you look at the flags, is that Norway? One of them. There's been some pretty big elections. So those are the three primary elections that followed Donald Trump being elected as president, ruling the world on top of the curled. The U.S. flag is curled like a serpent. So that's the rebel flag in disguise, right? If you look at the old rebel flag from back in the early 1900s, the "Don't Tread on Me" snake flag. He's holding the Triple Crown. He's also got the caduceus, which is the cure. That's the medical, right? The medical symbol. I am the cure kind of thing, sitting on top of the world. If you zoom in on that image, you'll see that there's a dotted line between. So this is where Canada's border would be, and there's a dotted line going from his heel, and he's actually kicked. Well, he's kicked the border down between Canada and the United States.
They're still seeing the cards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm just showing the cards. If you just analyze that second card in the middle where Donald Trump is sitting.
Yeah.
Just like Darren was saying too, the divide and conquer with the V, which is that's the symbol of the V with the lightning bolt. And then you've got the Christianity versus the communism type of divide and conquer in the tower. This is the ivory tower and the church and the writings on the wall. That note kind of resembles that would be from the 60s, I think it was. Martin Luther King, he did something where he walked up to the White House or something and basically pinned the proclamation on the door. Interesting.
The magician also.
Yeah, and this is the wave. So if you look at, this is the hermit, who is, the people that are, there's going to be a division amongst people. So the people will unplug and go back to being, the hermit, being off by themselves, off the grid, and that type of movement. The globe has been fractured down the center. So the globe is falling, right? This is all I almost see as like the flat Earth thing, right? In kind of disguise, right? The globe is being busted. People aren't believing in it anymore. But then these are waves upon waves of economic waves. And the ITP, and if you zoom in on that flag too, if you actually pull up this image and zoom in on it, that's the
whole point of a particular video. When Flat Earth goes public, it is to hide these particular things, and then you see all the things about the whole manipulation and slavery and debt slavery and the banking and etc. But also from part where you actually also get confronted with the reality within the whole flat Earth essence, actually.
Well, yeah, I see. Like he was saying, this is like the slow installation type of thing, right? So the ITP and the TCP, you know, like these are trans-Pacific. Those are agreements, right? Those are international trade agreements being busted down and people protesting in the streets against the trade. And then this is obviously that's the apocalyptic type of scenario. And then the solution being everybody adopts the new age 3-dimensional plug and play print. Everybody's the same. It's just a copy after copy after copy after copy. It just kind of blows my mind that this was the cover of The Economist, you know, last year, like in December, before all this started happening. You just kind of have to watch the game and see how it's being played out right in front of you.
Yeah, this is happening. Yeah.
Interesting times, you know, to quote a Chinese proverb, right?
You might wonder who's on top of that mountain in the hermit.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people like ourselves that are the truth seekers. That are like, and this is actually kind of like, this looks to me like a perfect example of Devil's Tower, which is the stone, right? Saying, here's the truth. Look at this, right? This is all natural, you know, natural events, and you know, trying to say, wake up. Right, he's shining a light in the night, right, saying, "Wake up, wake up, wake up! Look at the truth of the globe and the problem." Very interesting, how they.
Wheel of Fortune. Who the hell is that particular candidate?
The Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, they're showing it as a Wheel of Fortune, but it's actually a wheel of torture, right? It's a torture wheel, and she's being stung by the lightning, and there's 2 elections. Those are election boxes. Yeah. If you zoom in on this last card, the star card, there's children's faces inside of every one of these little stars, and the comet. And I'm not sure if that's referencing the Pizzagate thing with the children, the star children, and the way this is people or children being led to believe that they can go to Mars, perhaps. I mean, it's the star children and Mars type of illusion, or whether that's referencing the Pizzagate thing, the children's faces, because that was Comet Pizza, right? It was, and this looks like a pizza, perhaps red. So it's either Mars or Pizza, and Comet Pizza are all kind of in one card. Who knows? Very strange. These are the mosquitoes, right? The mosquitoes.
Whose cards are these?
This is the cover of The Economist magazine, 2017.
Yeah, but the cards are drawn in.
Yeah, they made them specifically. They made them specifically to say these are the tarot cards, like telling the future, right? Tarot cards. So it's just the graphic that they use for their cover.
With their own drawings, yeah.
With their own designs, yeah. And it kind of looks like this looks like the Asian sun, like the red sun. So that could represent conflict and tension in China with nuclear threats, and this looks like Zika virus from the mosquitoes, the death and the plague, and then the fish in the water, the fish of the sea. That's kind of the angel of death. This looks kind of like a Christian reference, perhaps. Jesus and the fish, right? It's very, I wouldn't say disturbing, but it's certainly kind of a prophetic type of cover, that's for sure. These are the players. This is obviously the Illuminati, the Templars, and this is the bank and the education system. So there's 3 of them that are battling, right? And these are all the players creating the picture, right? This is the education. This one looks more like a White House with the here's the big picture, right? That's being played, and then these ones appear to be separate. I think up here is actually praying hands. I think in that picture, and this would be scripture and the praying hands above in the sky. And so this is, I think, both political, educational, and banking versus religion type of thing. The world is kind of being manipulated, like a manipulation of these things.
Never directly to the sun.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, the triple crown here in Trump's right hand.
Oh, that's a triple peak, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's got like a little shows the triple crown, and I think that's representing essentially North America. So you're looking at Canada, the United States, and Mexico being combined into a North American Union as part of the cure to try to separate the colonial type of thing. So this is definitely a colonialism reference to say that an attempt to bring the North American Union into go. And they've already had the meetings. I mean, we've seen all those meetings in the news. Right? Trump's been down to, the Mexican president's been up to visit Trump, and the first person that was on the phone with the meeting, Trump was Trudeau. 24 hours of him winning the election, Trudeau was there. Right. Very interesting. What do you guys think of all that? I mean, that's exactly kind of what Darren was saying too. I mean, I think he's got it pretty well figured out. Yeah.
Heavy shit.
Pretty heavy, yeah.
This is the machine.
They're always going to be 10 steps ahead, aren't they? Because they've got the upper hand. Because they know what all the lies already over us.
Well, that's
we only
social
find out.
Well, it's social engineering, right? I mean, it's the society is being engineered, whether you like it or not. There's nothing we can do to deny that. I guess it's our choice whether or not we want to play the game. You can choose to play or not, right? I guess that's the only choice you got. At least that's what I think. I don't know. You either play or you don't.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, it all goes back in the box. So you can either choose to play it or do your own thing. But I don't know. It's heavy stuff anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you have to get yourself through the horror. Huh?
Yeah, it's like running the gauntlet. Running the gauntlet, right, so to speak. Yeah. What do you think, Dee? Still there?
Yeah, Dee.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just dealing with stuff in chat at the moment. I completely missed all of that. Or at least the question.
What do you think about it?
What, the cards you were just showing and everything, and the projections and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, I don't like the doom and gloom of it. I do understand that this is probably the way it's going. I just think there is a better way if we can educate people better on the system, because then we can use the system until it changes naturally through the evolution of people knowing about it and using it properly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just my views on it. But yeah, no, and series, I've got to say, I'm loving you putting that elevation stuff in Blender. It's amazing.
Yeah, when I see Series doing that, I mean, he's only on it 3 or 4 days since we shared the links to the Blender downloads and stuff. Yeah. I keep getting this image of you remember that movie when it's like the mad scientist goes, "It lives," right? I just can't wait to see what Series comes up with. Yeah.
Oh, the movie.
It's alive. The movie, yeah, was it Frankenstein? Yeah, the monster's been released. It's alive. Just let him go.
I need to figure out how I can square your circles so that actually square location is put in the 3D map in that sense. It's all these toroids you need to position the equator in that sense. That's the only unangled position you can get actually. Although,
yeah, I definitely think that the north needs to come down and be pressed a little bit, and the south has to go a little bit east-west to be stretched out some and keep the distances proper, right? But it's going to be a little bit different, like the sine wave thing, to keep the magnetic equator where the magnetic, like follow the magnetic trails. See, because everything we do is relative to a compass. Put in a sine wave.
Maps over and see how that actually lines up. The light
the magnetic
in the night and the dark and the night, and you can see when you actually have the back to the edge of the shadow, your angle towards the sun, the more you deviate from the equator towards north or south, the more your angle is twisted, and then where the light is, either north or south, is where you see it in north or south direction, in the other way around, with your back towards the equator. And that's a whole region where you can follow that, but through the day you have that it goes around you, and then at 12 noon it is actually at the right direction towards the north, if I'm right.
Yeah, the way that ball projection works, right? It's all the ball projection is a cylinder. You take the square map and you close it up, like Series is saying, close it into a cylinder. Then you draw an ellipse at 23-degree angle, ellipse around it. You cut that out, it makes the sine wave, and then you take the sine wave and you roll it into a sphere. And that's the geometry behind the goal projection, because that brings it to a center point in the middle of the ball, more or less. So you got to reverse that backwards to get back to reality. So it'll end up being kind of an elliptical type of a sine wave map for sure. I haven't tried that yet, but I'm going to do it. I got that in the plans for the weekend here.
As a tube, yeah.
Yeah, to do a cross section. And you take the square map, roll it into a tube, and then you got to take a cross section through it on the cross section on an elliptical as an equator, and then unfold it. That'll be interesting. See what that works out like.
Lots to think about, more to do.
Yeah, see how you can work it out. It's easier manipulatable in Blender as well already. A lot of tools. In the website I need to write all those tools myself. It's all possible, but you need to write it in code. So yeah, it's kind of the 3D web module what I need to create for it actually. Special graphic libraries.
Could I just say say that we've sort of been going for 2.5 hours now. I think that we shouldn't have a really long one today because we've had so many long hangouts. Because we'll be back. We're having a day off tomorrow, guys.
Yeah.
Thursday. Do you think that we should maybe sum up the hangout then, Clock?
Oh, me?
Yeah, go on, series. Go for it.
And I'm so tired.
Yeah, your mind's in blender, is it?
Well,
yeah, series has been staying up silly times, haven't you, series? You've been staying up really late.
I didn't realize I was muted. I'm muted too. What I was going to try and just to follow up on here is to my next project here for the weekend, perhaps, is like the Mercator projection is basically the square map that's rolled into a tube, essentially. And then what they do with that is draw an ellipse on it, more or less, and then it's expanded spherical projection based on the tube. So that's how it's being manipulated to get that to work. So what I'm going to try and do is just reverse that to see what happens to the actual coordinate. To take that backwards, because once you see how it's being projected, so you've taken the sphere and the coordinate and then projected it up to the top of the Mercator, and then it's rolled out into a back rolled out. It's tricky to see to go the other way with it. Projections are fun. It takes time. Basically, you got to do this: take all the coordinates and reverse them. Fun stuff, huh?
I'm glad you understand what you're doing, Chris.
Some days I do, some days I don't. Depends on how tired you are.
Sometimes you need to figure out.
Yeah, sometimes I learn it right from scratch. Yeah, the thing I really want in the end is just a map that is accurate and dimensionally accurate and work right, and it doesn't morph reality into something that doesn't exist.
It's the only thing I can work with.
Yeah,
it has to be rooted in reality, otherwise you lose track.
Yeah, it's amazing the size of in series here, the size of and the elevations of the Antarctic landmass down there is huge. I mean, that single continent in that projection is bigger than all the land masses of all the continents combined. I mean, easily looking at that, that's the first thing you notice. Like, look at the size of Antarctica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, nothing's as they say it is it? As we already know. People are having to work this out for themselves.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for people like you. There's Z Proxy. There's just so many. Even D Series. Anybody else I've mentioned. Ranty Rant does stuff. All of us. We're all helping.
The trick's going to be to figure out how much of that is due to a Mercator projection distortion to see what scales change and where the coordinates and angles end up being in reality.
Yeah, so far I figured with this whole tree stuff, for life, with the 3 circles and the 3 squares, it's mainly the middle square what is the most viable for life itself, and that's where you see life, and that's where the sun and moon cycles mostly are concentrated as well. It's kind of a middle plane from above, and through that you have the north and south direction to on where the axis of the toroid fields wobble as well. Yeah, I like to see this word work within the tube indeed.
Well, I'm ready to jump and go back to work here.
Yeah, shall we come back for our group hug and say goodnight to everybody, and we will be back on Thursday.
Okay, then.
Thank you everybody for watching in the chat room. Thank you for everything everybody does. A group hug for the hangout, for everybody watching, for everybody in the chat room, and thank you for everybody for being here today and watching this hangout. Time to go then. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Series.
See you.
Everybody. Night. See you Thursday night.
Bye-bye.